Майдан – це є революція громадян України.
Хто дав наказ розігнати Майдан, Віктор Федорович? 30-го числа. Дивіться, на мене ваш дядя напав.
Я хочу кращого майбутнього своїм дітям і сам його хочу ще застати.
Наших людей били, просто били наші ж українські хлопці, яких ми любимо, яким ми чай даємо, якщо що. Ми обурені, ми будемо боротися і стояти тут до кінця. І сьогодні, і завтра, і поки нас не почують. Президента геть.
Я проти Януковича.
А за що ви?
Отпустите мне ребенка, пусть ребенок будет отдыхать. Не дадим в обиду детей, детей в обиду не дадим в обиду детей.
I'm Yuri Butusov. I'm a journalist from CensorNet. I took part in a demonstration on December 1st. At first, the demonstration was totally peaceful. But about 1 p.m., a group of young guys came up to the police line and immediately started beating them. When I stood between the police and the provocateurs, they were angry that news footage would show a protester protecting the police. They surrounded me and beat me on the head with an iron rod, then sprayed tear gas right in my face. Obviously, they wanted to show the police as victims of violence, to justify a crackdown on a peaceful demonstration. At 1600, it got dark. The lines of the police parted and the Berkut attacked. They beat anyone they could lay their hands on. It was scary to watch. My skull was fractured and a piece is missing. The fact that the police didn't arrest those who were attacking them, but beat up random people who didn't get away, is the most obvious proof that this was a planned provocation. Then they could say the demonstration wasn't peaceful, but an armed conflict between radicals.
Мене звати Олександра Морозова.
My name is Alexandra Morozova. When the revolution began, it was a peaceful protest, so I supported them with my music.
The first time I played for them was when the revolution was just beginning. I wanted to give them hope through my music and to show them that we would resolve everything in a peaceful way. And I wanted the government to understand that and to open up a dialogue, but this never happened. My friend Pavel came to listen and support me, because he's a theater director and is always interested in what's happening. Pavel is one of my friends who spent many nights on Maidan and did not go home, so we would often meet there.
I remember also thinking that we have to be more patriotic also about Ukraine, and we can be better and we can be more caring about what's going on. It refers to material things and also refers to the organization of the society, to how people interact, how people treat each other, basically.
Мене звати Тіна Пересунько.
My name is Tina Peresunko. I was born and live in Kyiv, and during Maidan, I stood for Kyiv.
Ми хочемо зібрати людей.
We want to encourage people to take part in our action.
На кульці напише своє бачення, що
We will blow up balloons, and everyone will get to write what Ukraine means for them. Ukraine is Europe. Ukraine is us. And we'll create a giant blue and yellow heart of Ukraine, and we'll send it to heaven, so our country's heart can beat with a new rhythm. And this heart, with all our wishes, will watch over and bless us, and give us new energy for the development of our country.
Ми, чесно кажучи, на
During the first European phase of the movement,
європейському етапі,
we were all volunteers.
як волонтери, несли на Майдан.
Everyone brought whatever they could to Maidan.
Хлопці, розбирайте хліб.
Liters of water, medicine, food and bread.
Води, дуже багато медикаментів, хліба, ящиками і так далі.
This revolution was based on everyone volunteering.
Звичайно, всі
In
зголошувалися.
the kitchen, there was an enormous amount of food.
Було дуже багато їжі. І що ніхто не чекав
Nobody waited to get approval from some leaders or organization.
чи з якоюсь організацією.
This was simply active people who wanted to do something concrete, here and now.
Майдан – це є революція громадян.
Maidan is the revolution of the citizens of Ukraine. Of course, the first phase of the revolution was possible only because the total aggression against the people hadn't happened yet.
Тобто вже після цього
It was only after this that the self-defense forces were organized
обороняти себе, самообороняти.
for our self-defense.
І ми не могли взагалі відкрити обійми.
We couldn't just open up our arms so our enemies could shoot us.
Це і відбувалося.
I stood in the perimeter that could have been destroyed.
Якби не ці хлопці.
If it wasn't for the guys from the self-defense, quite literally, I wouldn't be here.
Мене би фізично не було. От, наприклад.
Фіксуєте щит, максимально захищайте. Ви статичні, ви можете рухатись, але вас не сунуть. Беркуту замінники почали.
Мене звати Андрій Янченко.
My name is Andrew Tkach.
Псевдовисота.
Before the revolution, I worked as a deputy director of a private logistics company. I came out on Maidan, December 1st, after they beat our students. I volunteered and said I was in the Army Reserve. So they said, help organize our self-defense. There were all sorts of people here. Students, women, businessmen, pensioners. Our main tactic was to stop the police. Every force has an equal resistance. We were that resistance. We didn't allow the police into Maidan's territory. We didn't let them pass.
Со стороны администрации президента, со стороны Франка. Там тоже надо забаррикадировать, пожалуйста.
Yes, we threw stones at them, but that was the only way to keep them away.
The musketeers stood for honor and dignity. Fight for yourself, fight for your country, but never lose your military dignity.
За людей.
Здравствуйте, меня зовут Руслан.
My name is Ruslan. I was born in the hero city of Odessa. After my training, I worked as an ambulance medic, and when I ended up on Maidan, I began helping people in the medical field. Some of the guys I knew from university were seriously injured in Maidan. So, to help and protect them, I came to the Maidan.
Помочь и защитить их, я пришел на Майдан.
Так, есть 4.
Я по периметру все виставив, все там стоїть.
Хорошо, давайте, скруйте, давайте команду, мы сейчас...
First, I thought the people on the front line on Hrushevsky Street were provocateurs.
Вони були провокаторами.
But then I talked to them and I realized they were ordinary guys.
Ніякі не провокатори, це такі ж.
And I could follow their thinking.
І я зрозуміла, про що вони думають і як вони мислять.
I could see that people who were carrying tires and wood and building the barricades were protecting us against the riot
Вони
police.
захищали нас від Беркуту.
And I started seeing them not as provocateurs, but as people who accepted the responsibility to bring change. I realized they would stand to the bitter end. And I started seeing them with great respect because they had no fear.
Бо вони не боялися.
Біжить 10 чоловік твоїх і ти знаєш.
When 10 of you guys take off running, if you don't get up and cover them, they'll be killed.
Мене звати Іван.
I come from Boryspil in Kyiv region.
Мирний протест це
Peaceful protest, carrying banners, that's not fun.
Раз, два, три, бігом!
я з групою
We were providing cover for medics who were getting out the wounded.
витягували ранених.
I was shooting fireworks from the barricades.
Перво пойде вот это. Я буду вас прикрывать сверху. Я их отстреляю так, что вони охуеют. У нас будет секунд 40. За эти 40 секунд вы должны позакидать вот эти бутылки, что у вас в руках.
Пока он стреляет, вы закидываете бутылки.
Я откидаю. Кто боится, блядь, может идти.
How did we come to this?
Проти нас
We had to defend ourselves somehow.
охотничі.
They were firing shotgun shells, rubber and plastic bullets, grenades.
Гранати.
Many of our guys were injured there.
Molotov cocktails are traditional, but fireworks were a new idea and a very effective weapon. They don't kill, but they can rattle you. They called us extremists, terrorists. But when a kid gets shot in the eye with a rubber bullet, excuse me, but what would you do?
Your cameraman is a hero. He was hit by a bullet and we just stitched him up when the first body is brought in. He jumps to his feet and asks, "Can I shoot?" I say, "Shoot, for history's sake."
Дівчатка, ви його знали. Ідіть сюди.
Nigoyan had 3 wounds. A wound here, in the neck and in the chest. It was an explosive bullet. At 6 p.m. we pronounced him clinically dead and called the homicide squad.
Що ще один? О, бля.
They see the second fatality brought in, hit by a sniper in the heart. The priest broke down. Some of the doctors and nurses also cried. No one expected our children and grandchildren to end up in a war zone.
During Maidan, I was worried. And even when my mother was asking me to leave Kyiv, I say never. I'll be standing here till we win, till the victory comes. And mother was crying, asking that you'll be killed. No, please. Say no, this is the fight of our generation. If everybody will be controlled by fear, we will lose the chance to change the system.
In our protest of the angels, we tried to bring life and light to the very darkest corners. And our action took place after the first people were killed. We set out to collect a common prayer for Ukraine. There was a guy standing here who wrote, "God, please protect my company and the lives of Berkut." The men who were threatening them. They were brainwashed that we were fascists, nationalists, Banderites, and here we come out in angel wings, two little fascists. Quite honestly, facing them, we were afraid. So I said, "Please, don't shoot, we are afraid of you." An officer gets on the megaphone and orders us to take a step back. Take another step back, then another one. There was such a horrible vibration there, such a scary atmosphere. My knees were shaking uncontrollably. I could hardly keep myself from falling. They were being turned into zombies. Because when you become a robot, you can turn into an aggressor.
По всьому колу, по всіх вулицях, які вони блокують, і з другої сторони їх заблокуємо.
Утром 18 числа.
On the morning of the 18th, we began a peaceful protest
Самооборони Майдану.
of our self-defense forces. We weren't carrying any weapons, just protective armor and shields. I was working as a medic for the first company. We were supposed to march to the parliament, but at Mariinsky Park we encountered armed resistance. They opened fire and threw grenades at us. A lot of people were wounded with shrapnel. That's where we were met by many of the Berkut forces. Once again, they opened fire on us with lethal and non-lethal weapons. Tear gas and stun grenades were flying at us, and even those used in combat. Many people were wounded, a few were murdered. That was really scary.
They began their attack by throwing down stun grenades. I was down below when they broke through the barricades.
Собирайте вещи.
They were worried that our headquarters would be taken, because all the personal documents of our company were there. And if Berkut got a hold of them, they would arrest everyone, or even kill them.
We all knew that 15 years behind bars awaited us, in the best case. We had no way back.
Міння поки не кидаємо і намагаємося усунути тих, хто буде кидати до моєї команди.
Their water cannon broke through the barricade, but they stopped them there.
Я ще раз звертаюся до Беркуту. Ви остаєтеся на Майдані. Ми будемо тримати наш периметр.
I was shaken up by their stun grenades, and they carried me out of there. After that, I don't remember anything.
Каждый знал, что, возможно, в тот день его не станет.
Everyone knew they may not be here the next day. They all knew.
Были взрывы гранат.
There were gunshots, grenades exploding, and the guys had already seen what happened on Hrushevsky Street in January. That's why everyone knew roughly what was coming. But deep down inside, everyone hoped that trouble would pass them by. And they knew that behind their backs were their families, their relatives, their friends for whom they were standing there.
At 9 a.m. we get up to the sounds of battle. We jump into the ambulance, turn on the flashers and drive out. And they start shooting at us, doctors. So we make a sharp turn and drive right into the riot police. And this is what we see. 2 generals, a colonel, machine gunners and 2 snipers shooting protesters right before our eyes. Head, neck, heart. It was a professional shot.
This was Operation Boomerang. They lured our forces to attack and into the snipers' line of fire. And then they started shooting them down.
Раненого треба забрати, але нести! Ще 2!
It's a typical military operation. I'd understand if the protesters were shooting, but they weren't armed. They're not military men. They couldn't figure out this operation.
What could I say? I tell the general, what are you doing? You're killing people. I've been to war. What are you doing? Don't interfere, doctor. Get in the car.
Usually this operation has 3 stages. Withdraw, lure your opponent forward, then finish him off with overwhelming firepower when they run. But the last stage failed because the protesters attacked and didn't retreat. They carried out the dead and wounded, but they held their ground.
Волонтери, візьміть на
Носилки! Води треба!
It really hurt. I've seen terrible things in war, limbs and heads torn off. War is war, but here...
Каждый стоял не за то, чтобы ему заплатили какое-то
People who stood here didn't do it for money, nor did they come out so that tomorrow they could strut around and say, I was on Maidan, so now give me love and respect. No, that's not why the guys stood and died.
Для этого ребята стояли и погибали.
It was so we could have a future.
Они тряслись, что завтра придет какой-то пан.
They were afraid that a new boss will come tomorrow and say, I'm a congressman or I'm the president and everything that was yours is now mine. That's what the guys stood for and that's why they deserve honor and glory.
I returned here at 8 p.m. That's when I discovered that many of our brothers were gone.
Five were killed. 2 from the Lviv gate and 2 from the anarchist locomotive. And 1 young man who arrived here just a day before he was killed. And just a week after his son was born. I'm sorry, can we take a break?
I understand hate is a sin, but this is something I can't forgive. Let it be done legally, but I want revenge. We won't allow any politicians to ruin Ukraine again.
Sometimes in life, the spilling of blood is unavoidable. It was meant to be a peaceful protest, but a peaceful protest wouldn't have achieved what was meant to be. Sooner or later, I thought this scenario was inevitable. For freedom, for honor, for our nation, yes, it was worth it.
People are coming not just from Kyiv, but from the whole country to pay their respects to the heroes of what's called the Heavenly Hundred. It's important to note that there are people from every region in the country here. From Donetsk, Kharkiv, Crimea. Many of those who were killed were very young, and now there is a website to learn about their lives. One of the stories is about a young guy who was a lighting technician at a theater. And he never carried even the most basic protective gear. He would go to the barricades and volunteer to bring the guys tea and whatever else they needed. And one of those times on Institutskaya Street, when he was there without any weapon, he was shot by a sniper. Blood is essential to life, so the sacrifice of blood should help create a new society, the birth of a new nation. Now we are in the second phase of our revolution,
Нашої революції, визвольної
our national liberation.
революції. Ми повинні
We already have defeated the enemy within us,
перемогли ворога.
the fear of death, the state of apathy.
Ця перемога вже здійснилася. Перемога над
But today we have to defeat our external enemy.
зовнішнього ворога.
They did everything in their power to destroy this country, economically and as a viable state. In order to cover up Yanukovych's fraud, they began a civil conflict. Their goal was for the East and South to take up arms because people with weapons can't negotiate. They can only fight.
Суки, блядь, убивать их. Я буду убивать, мне поебать. Не поебать. Я забуду, блядь, за Сталина, блядь, сука, нахуй, лягу.
I'm sure that the final aim of the government was to start a civil war. For them, war was a way of avoiding responsibility. Everyone understands that this regime was just a bunch of criminals and crooks. As soon as they withdrew the Berkut from Kyiv, the regime popped like a soap bubble.
The guys who were with me, their pictures are now hanging on Institutska Street. They are the people who fought for the values this country should strive for, and they perished for those ideals. I will never forget any of them. We showed other countries that with great sacrifice you can overthrow a tyrannical regime. With great efforts you can build a better government. I hope it can change the situation for the better in our country. We'll show the whole world that Ukraine is not some fragment of Europe, but a place where democracy took hold. I hope that's what happens.
A lot has already changed. But we can't forget, because these people gave their lives for Ukraine to be different. So there'd be no more bandits or killings. That's why the music has to give hope for better days. For all this not to have been in vain.
After February's losses, people hadn't even recovered from those sacrifices. So nobody expected there would be war. It's not clear how it can be stopped, because it doesn't depend on Ukraine, but on Russia. We don't want to give up a slice of our land just because somebody wants it. I feel sorry for all the people who won't be coming back. And I wouldn't want for those sacrifices to keep increasing.
this was my country that was being, in front of my eyes, ripped apart. And it was a very torturous process because it was taking place every day. My name is Ivan Lazoe. Well, I was born and raised in New York City. One of the people who attended Columbia College the same year I did was Barack Obama. I have 2 law degrees from 2 different continents, and I'm very happy to be here. I love this country, I love the people here, and I adopted Ukrainian citizenship in 1997. The victory of the Maidan was as serious a blow for Russia as it was for Yanukovych. Why? Because what happened in Ukraine was the complete antithesis of Putinism, which is all about control. Everything is in the hands of the Kremlin in Russia. Their reaction was swift. I'm sure they had contingency plans to take over the Crimea, which they did. Having, of course, achieved this victory at no cost, Russia decided, the Kremlin decided to go further, and they began to stoke separatism in eastern Ukraine.
Вы на вызов выезжаете, да, если кто-то происходит? Или что? Работает? Так там трубку даже не вперед. Сейчас наркоманы, мальчики, вылезут, кто будет зачищать? Да, какого хрена, блядь? Вы едете вы на вызов. Вот ты именно, а что ты пришел сюда? Выезжай.
The assault on the police department began about 9. We were there about 10:30.
Парни, взяли вот этих. Взяли их.
A very aggressive, very active minority of local residents who were clearly pro-Russian. We saw at the moment of occupation just yelling, Россия! That's their whole motif, that's their whole program. They were a ragtag sort of motley group, armed with Kalashnikovs. In the initial, let's say, discussions which would take place along the lines of, well, you had your Maidan and we have ours, why can't we have it? My response was always, well, we never had 1,000 people armed with Kalashnikovs in the center of Kyiv demonstrating in our Maidan. It was all people who were unarmed.
Українці мирний народ, який ніколи ні на кого не нападав. Вперше з 41-го року ворог перетнув кордон України, порушив її територіальну цілісність, анексував частину території.
Так, готовы? Да.
Ми – народ-переможець, який має право пишатися своїм внеском в подоланні фашизму.
Это не нас фашистами называют.
1945
Those two are related. There are 3 families here.
3 семьи.
Здесь именно семья, да. Именно
И близкие друзья, которые...
И мы защищаем друг друга.
We protect each other and our city.
Что?
Look, there is the main separatist.
Сепаратистка, главное.
You're not shy?
Нормальная человеческая
We're hoping for normal life in the future.
And not to be a dependent province of Ukraine, like Kyiv always tries to convince us.
Нормально жить, работать.
Live and work normally, earn a normal wage, raise our kids.
Воспитывать детей, обучать.
We live normally, work normally, we've got everything here. We just don't want it taken away. Let them come, and we'll tell them ourselves.
Just be patient. We'll be your guest soon. Peace be with you. I'm a good guy.
Я добрый.
Right now, the Russian army is the enemy, which is seizing our land, right?
And they are Slavs, just like us.
Brothers or not, but they've attacked. We didn't, they did. We are defending our land, not attacking, defending ourselves. They can dress up as they please, but they've got no fighting spirit. We are defending our land, we are ready to die, but they are not. When they start taking back Cargo 200, their dead bodies back to Moscow. then their mothers will ask,
За что?
why?
We are ready. We are trying. Seriously.
Glory to Ukraine.
Glory to its heroes.
The separatists had begun spreading out very aggressively, and the government was doing nothing. It was literally torture, sitting in Kyiv, not being able to do anything. Because this was, quote-unquote, our government, which was being so incredibly incompetent at best that it bordered on treason.
Доброго дня, шановні луганчани. Мене звати Іван Лозовий. Я вчора приїхав з Київського Майдану, прямо з Київського Майдану сюди.
This was unbearable, intolerable to people from there.
Створена нова організація під назвою Луганська сотня, призвання якої захищати
People wanted to band together to defend their territory against the separatists. And the sentiment was very simple. It's, we have to do something. We can't rely entirely on the government or the military. And that's why the battalion grew so quickly. Right now it has up to 1,000 volunteers. It's the regular population being at the front line. They were quickly joined by people from the Maidan. Some of them, but very, very few, brought our own registered weapons. And they were really there with nothing. Every time I gather a little bit of assistance for them, a couple of bulletproof vests, a couple of helmets, I bring it to them. One fighter I spoke to there was contacted by somebody on Facebook, some couple living in Poltava, and they said, oh, we'll buy a bulletproof vest and send it to you. I meet one person about buying bulletproof vests, and he goes, oh, you should talk to this woman. She's gathering some aid to the front line. And I talked to her, and she goes, well, we're working with those two, that one and that one. Organizations, informal social networks, groups that are funneling huge amounts. And that's a continuation of the Maidan, of course. You know, it's like an anthill.
Слава Україні! Дзвоните нам, хлопці, дзвоните. Все ж я вам вдячний.
Слава героям Донбасса!
There was this initial burst of support for the separatist movement in eastern Ukraine, but it fell flat because a lot of people are afraid of a war. They understand that the separatists brought a war.
Мама, здесь каждый город с детства мне давно знакомый. Дружковка, Славянск, Краматорск, теперь на лентах новостей. Донбасс, спасай своих детей.
Donbas, save your children. That was song definitely about us.
Мама, как в 41-м Запада пришли к нам бесы.
And it also was saying that, like in 1941, the demons came to our land from the west, and we have to fight them. But right now it's associated with the government in Kyiv, basically. And people like me also, because I was at Maidan.
My name is Pavel Yurov. I'm a theater director from Kyiv, born in Androcit, Lugansk region, and I have been held as a hostage for 70 days in Slovyansk. I wanted to check what kind of movement is that, because they claim that this is a people's movement, and I wanted to check if people are really into it, because I don't believe Russian propaganda. So we went downtown and we went around these 3 occupied buildings, and there was this small Russian crew.
Ирмина, здравствуй. По твоей информации, сколько было украинских военных?
The one girl I found, she works for Life News.
Ополченцы предотвратили атаку на Славянск.
And she was even starting to ask some kind of questions.
Украинские военные, которые не раз были обстреляны.
Like my friend Dennis got really loud with this woman. There was this kind of argument when she was saying like, "Oh, you're licking Obama's ass," and I'm saying, "Oh, you're licking Putin's ass," and stuff like that. So it was so that kind of discourse, you know. Eventually, I've realized that we have to stop it. And then there are 2 guys calling us from behind, like, stop and get down on your knees. And we turn around, there is one guy with the Kalashnikov and one guy with a gun. And they're saying that by the order of mayor, you're going to SBU building. and then they blindfolded us. I got a hit in the nose, and they broke it, and it really shocked me. They found in Denis's iPod, they found pictures from Maidan and the videos from Maidan, so they got really angry about that. Did you sing an anthem? They're like, no, and they're hitting us. They're like, did you scream glory to Ukraine? And they're like, no, and they hit us again. At the same time, the guy was putting a knife to my ear. Then the other guy was spilling petrol on my head, pointing gun to my body. And I was like thinking, what, you're gonna burn me? You're gonna cut my ear and you're gonna shoot me at the same time? No way. I mean, it was scary, of course, but this situation, it was really like in a bad movie.
Everything that happened in Slovyansk was clearly organized by Igor Strelkov, who's from the FSB, Russia's security services. Strelkov loves historical reenactments. It's a hobby he made into reality while he was in power.
На основании указа Президиума Верховного Совета СССР о военном положении 22 июня 1941 года.
They use Stalin-era laws, like the death penalty. They use torture. This regime makes it impossible to think differently. My name is Yevgenia Zakrevskaya. I'm a lawyer representing some of those kidnapped in eastern Ukraine. We saw the horrible parading of the Ukrainian soldiers captured by the separatists. According to one of those marching, who was later released, anyone who disobeyed was executed on the spot. There have also been violations by some of the volunteer battalions. But I think the quantity of victims is absolutely uncomparable. In any case, I don't want the Ukrainian side to do the same. It's unnecessary and very dangerous. The picture they want to paint is that everyone living in DNR territory supports their rule. That's not true. A sizable portion of the citizens is pro-Ukrainian and want nothing to do with the Donetsk People's Republic, and that kind of thinking is very dangerous for them. That's why they're so thoroughly and brutally destroying it. In the room where I was imprisoned, there were several men and women wearing sleeve patches of the Russian Orthodox Army. Then someone came who started insulting me and threatened to kill me with a knife. And then he began slicing me. My hands, neck, knees, almost to the bone. I realized that this man was a torturer. And then he ordered me to write on the wall in my own blood, I love Donbass.
Вставай, Донбас! Вставай, мой край родной! Вставай, Донбас!
Most of the people at the base were locals, but the actual decision makers were connected to Russia or Crimea. The main guy at the base even gave me a lecture saying that Ukraine was a mistake of history which they would deal with, and then everything will be fine.
The Russian Church was the source of separatism here. Look, there is a two priests standing by the Protestant church. They took over the Protestant church and used it as a base for 125 fighters. Look, he is firing, and these two are blessing them from the side. Take a look. This is my home blown to pieces. This is terrifying. And they didn't just get me. My son, my grandson, and 2 neighbors. All this was done because we were helping the Ukrainian army. They stuck machine guns in my back and took me to the Russian Gestapo. I was lying there on the concrete floor for 2 days, getting re-educated. They tortured and killed people there. I was there when 14 corpses were dug out next to a children's hospital. I've seen it with my own eyes. Look, how could it happen that living people who had dreams and plans, who have families, were just shot? It was really fascism, and it came from the Soviet Union. The whole evil comes from there, from that distant past.
A month passed, and no one knew where he was. So we gathered in protest, and many of Ukraine's most creative artists came out to support Pavel. Let the authorities explain what they knew and what they were doing.
Pasha
Yurov is a wonderful theater director with whom I worked myself. They disappeared on the 25th of April. There is no news about them. No one knows if they are dead or alive.
Because so many people had disappeared, were imprisoned and tortured. Of course, I was very worried. No one knew how they were treating him, and I was afraid he wouldn't be coming back. But I tried not to think about it.
Everyone who has eyes should see, and everyone who has ears should hear. I used to listen to these guards and trying to understand their motivation and their goals and how their ground, you know, where do they touch the earth, because it's just completely just only words. There's one guard at some point who was saying like real surrealistic also things, like he was saying that there is one huge Slavic nationality and there should be one big Slavic world for everybody, and like that will save the earth from evil. From the demon America and gay European Union. Our answer to that is quite simple: fuck off. Do your Russian world in your Russia, and that's it. I'm ethnically mostly Russian. 3/4 of my grandparents. Yes. And the good thing that Ukrainian nationalism is actually international. It doesn't stick to you, to the blood. If you're for Ukraine, then it doesn't matter if you're Jewish or German or Russian or Polish or whoever, as long as you're for Ukraine. There was a letter signed by director of the Gogol Fest Arts Festival. The guard even read it out. It was stated there that I was popularizing Russian culture in Ukraine because I've done a performance of the Russian play, and Denis also was portrayed as an arts person. And the next day, on the 9th of May, they moved us to the police detention center, 2 of us. I can tell you about every cell. So we used to walk from this side, like counting 0, and then you go 1, and then you go 2, and then you go 3, and for that it's about 330 times for 1 kilometer. It is like cell in the monastery, yeah, and we used to, like in that next cell, Denis was lying like this with the New Testament, I was lying like that on that side, and we were like reading New Testament because the sun till the end of the light, you know. And there was bombing and stuff like that, so it was quite surrealistic again.
телевизора. От телевизора ничего не осталось. Тут были наши постели. Тут был наш ящик, и от него тоже ничего не осталось. Здесь мамин кабинет был. Мама здесь работала раньше. Вот это братика комната. Вот это Нина, которая осталась. Мы на нем с братиком. Это трубы от кондиционера. Тут был у нас кондиционер. Родители. Да.
When the shooting was most intense, we would hide under the table. That was terrifying. The firing was right next to us, and shells were exploding close by. We were afraid for our lives. That's no life for a child, to hide under a table and see windows shatter and pieces of glass flying everywhere. It was simply terrifying. People are walking around and they're obviously Russian. Shops in Slovyansk would see people with guns and they were speaking with a Russian accent. When the shooting starts, my mother would take cover, but I couldn't. We're just happy we managed to get out because we made it.
Our situation at this detention center was like we didn't know why we were there and what for what reason, but we knew that we're gonna get out sooner or later, and that for me it is kind of a micro scheme of the whole world, because we don't know why are we here, for what reason, but we all know that we're gonna get out of here sooner or later.
This was our roadblock. This is Kramatorsk. This is Slovyansk.
We were holding a blockade, encircling them.
After that, we entered Slovyansk.
The next day. For 3 weeks, no helicopters came. The pilots refused to come in.
It rained 2 times that month, so we can only wash twice. For 5 days, I smoked tea. I can tell you which brands are the best.
There was one time when the guard went in at night. He said, like, the end is near, and we're gonna run away, but we like you, and we think that the Ukrainian army will come and kill you. So, but because we like you, we want you to come with us. You're gonna come with us. You're gonna take the machine guns, the Kalashnikovs, and come with us. And we're like, no. When the special forces came and they put us in a car and we were riding to this checkpoint on the hill, and like they had these 2 huge big Ukrainian flags, it was kind of relief that the freedom is coming, and this hell is gonna end soon, quite soon, right now, basically.
Добрий ранок, Україно, прокидайся вже мала, я несу тобі єдина чашку кави і молока.
Сейчас
Most young people want to be in Ukraine, but just recently the opposite was true. They saw what life was like in the Donetsk People's Republic, and they choose Ukraine. Before, everyone who supported the separatists was given a weapon. Then the looting began. Civilians were beaten, stores were robbed. We want to live in a better country. We'd like to make a volleyball court here and dig out a pond. That's what Maidan was about. The government listening to the people. If we stay in Ukraine, we'll change things. And our voices will be heard.
Volodymyr Stayura, Battalion Sich. The most important task is not patrolling the streets, but renewing the faith of the people here in the army, police, the volunteer battalions. We're here not just to find the bandits, but we help the children's home and rebuild Slovyansk. So they understand we're all together in Ukraine. Ternopil, Slovyansk, Kyiv, we all unite. This is someone who helped Ukraine, and we are grateful. Did anyone ever forbid you to speak Russian here?
Of course not. This was something people made up. This was all fake.
What's your opinion? How has the support for Ukraine changed in Slovyansk?
Very little. It was 90% against Ukraine, and now it may be 70%.
We don't get that feeling here. We talk to people and we don't pick up on it.
But I talk to people there.
You're talking about Mykolaiivka?
Yes. I don't tell them I'm against the separatists, I just keep quiet and listen.
Славянский чи киевлянский?
Такая вот в дом соседям влетела и сгорел весь дом.
You understand that together we will change this country. You understand this?
I hope so.
Ми залишимо продукти вам, скажімо так, але якісь безпосередньо дитині також, щоб ми віддали дітям.
У нас очень тяжелые дети.
We take care of the most severely handicapped kids, the ones we couldn't even move to basement shelters. If it happens again, kill them all, because anyone left alone would die of hunger. The terror we lived through and that people are still living through in Donetsk and Lugansk, it's impossible to describe. We all need psychiatric help. The main thing is for the war to stop. If they help us bring peace, we will be very grateful.
This is where I'm at. And over there, less than 300 meters away, the sign says
Donetsk.
Grandma is a veteran. She's not afraid of anything. Take a rest. Let me take that.
it's hard for them. How can we share anything with them? Their houses are burning. Every day 2 or 3 are on fire. What's there to talk about? The president says people are returning to normal life. I'd like to see him here and take him to any yard. What kind of life can Ukrainians return to when all what's left is the foundation and burnt walls?
The regular army soldiers who come here give us the coordinates. As you can see, there's no officers here. Guys, let's go that way. They were just shooting at us. Usually it's from 400 meters away.
Мишка 3, если слышишь, на 12 часов, расстояние 900, осколочным, беглым.
If there was just one person in the government who thought about the country, the people, to the end, a patriot, then we would have closed the borders a long time ago. We've got a big enough one, but those guys are letting a foreign army come forward. It's no big deal fighting with those useless people, the so-called soldiers. But they are letting the Russian army come. That's the problem.
They were very badly supplied at the front line. That's our problem. That's not the fault of the Russians. That is our friggin' problem. This is the column. See, the sun's just coming up. This column being formed. After conducting transportation duties, really behind the lines, but close to the lines for about a week, I called my friends who were near the front line base. My friend Ihor said, well, you better show up today because I think we're going on a mission tomorrow morning. And sure enough, next morning, we got up at 4 in the morning, we were all lined up. And there were about 60 of us at the time, a lot of armored vehicles, 3 tanks we had. This is a very aggressive assault battalion. They've proven their battle worthiness. And it's all volunteer. Members of the battalion who actually go on a mission are the ones who have volunteered to do so. I stood in that line and I was checking internally that I wanted to be part of it, knowing the danger that lay ahead. A friend walked up to me and gave me this. And he said, here's one for you too. And I said, what is it? And he goes, it's a pain reliever, which you can inject anywhere into your body and it'll knock you out practically within 15 minutes. And that's when it really hit me. If I need this, maybe my leg is blown off, something like that. Suddenly, out of nowhere, this huge column of fire shows up, this huge explosion. Unfortunately, we lost the tank to a large mine which had been set up by the separatists. This happened right in front of me. It was a huge mine because the tank was just there in pieces, it was all burnt up. One of the 3 tank members briefly survived because he was thrown into the grass. Even though badly burned, he was picked up by the medics, but died on the way, very quickly, unfortunately, on the way to the hospital. Even before the Russian direct large invasion, the character of the fight already in early August had changed. If several months ago we were facing local retired military servicemen who were armed separatists, these are now Spetsnaz, special forces from the Russian army, and they could tell this very easily, first of all, by the people they killed or wounded, prisoners they took. Secondly, the character of the battle, the fact that snipers became very accurate. This was hugely amplified on August 24 when the Russian invasion took place, and that's when the battalion had to retreat, and now they're hoping they can hold their line. The prognosis is very simple. It's a war, it should be fought to the end, and we have got to win it. It is critically life important for Ukraine to fend off the aggression, to reform society, and to build a normal country.
Правду! Геть! Правду! Геть! 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 Геть!
Я передаю слово чарівній дівчині Ганусі Гопко, нашому двигуну реформ. Ганусю, тобі слово.
Усі, хто думали, що після Майдану Україна стане іншою, вони глибоко помилялись. Для того, щоб Україна стала іншою, ми маємо вибороти це право. І я хочу сказати, що система розраховує на те, що ми з вами здамося, що ми розійдемось по домах і забудемо про те, за що віддали життя Небесна Сотня, за що щодня гинуть солдати.
More than 100 people were killed during Maidan. They didn't use this opportunity to change the old system, to fight with corruption. Because changing the system, it means they will be fighting with themselves.
Це краще, ніж Слов'янськ.
Ми об'єдналися в цю команду, і я дуже сподіваюся, що завдяки нашій присутності парламент стане абсолютно іншим. Нарешті парламентарі служитимуть інтересам людей.
Дякую.
Прошу.
There is a big fight between old generations that represents this post-Soviet bureaucrats corrupted system and new generations who were standing in Maidan, sacrificing their lives for new Ukraine, and they have another interest. Ukraine needs technocrats, professional government, who knows how to draft legislation, how to lobby, who has background in economy and social issues, and not just because I am a member of such political parties. It was very important. We are generation after generation that fight for Ukraine, and finally, now, fighting during Maidan and now the situation in the East, this is our chance. Every day when I'm reading the Bible, I'm asking God to send me some special sentences that will help me during the day. And actually, after more than 9 months of hard work, starting from Maidan, without vacations, I feel sometimes exhausted. And actually, these sentences is very inspiring. With hard work, everything will be achieved with love.
The events that happened is like the war for independence, and that's why it's so painful.
Пасажирам, які прибувають до станції Слов'янськ, дякуємо, що скористались
The situation changed me in a moral way. I hope to stick with the principles I've realized there, like freedom and like love. Love, 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 love. I'm glad they left it. We as a society, as a nation, as a country, we can try our own way, you know, of creating our own democracy, Ukrainian democracy. That's basically what this story is about right now. If we are faced that kind of challenge, we have to take it.
Every time when I'm thinking about these people, when you realize that actually this guy is not here, but this guy is with you, and all these people and their families, they really expect that you'll never miss this opportunity, that you'll fight to change Ukraine. The price is a human lives. This is the biggest and the most expensive price that we paid for our future.